What's going on, everybody? It's the Hurry Up Offense, episode 6, really the week 6 preview. We'll kind of phase out of the episode stint just because of a little hiccup I had last week. But all that to say, TJ Winger here with you, joined as always by JT Creed and Mason Cannon. JT, how's it going, man?
Going good. Vikings got a W this weekend, so feeling good about that. Yeah, another good week of football.
Hey, Mason, how's it going, man?
Going all right, man. So takeaway from the Vikings dub, the Pats also got a 29-0 dub against the Detroit Lions. So yeah, it's going good.
Took the L on that one personally. I had a Lions ladder of money line plus the points, minus the points. Lost all three. Obviously, you can't win much when the Lions put up a whole goose egg.
Yeah, it's tough when the team's highest scoring per game average gets blank. That's a tough bet there. But that being said, yeah, apologies, no episode last week. I had a little bit of a snafu editing, lost the recording, so that is totally on me, not these guys. So apologies again. We'll kind of go through my locks. All three of our locks missed, so certainly take us on the honor code there. We were being very upfront and honest about what we could have played there. But we'll kind of talk about that. But kind of an exciting, slate of games to talk about. Obviously, the game Bills-Chiefs is the one that kind of steals headlines. But I want to start out with some written throws. And let's talk about Matt Rule. At the day of us recording, we are having to record a little early because of my schedule. So if these lines are a little different than what the graphics say, I do apologize for that as well. But hey, Matt Rule fired today. I never take pleasure in somebody losing their job, but this was one that we kind of all saw coming. Actually, last week I asked y'all, coaches you think will be fired first, Rule, Rivera, Reich. We all kind of went with Rule. But yeah, he is out. Steve Wilkes is taking over as the interim. He was the secondary coach, passing game coordinator for the defense. So first head coaching domino falls. I kind of want to know what y'all think about that off top. JT, I'll start with you.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. It's one of those situations where we were talking, if your stars aren't performing, that's when coaches get fired. Also, yeah, he really hasn't had a whole lot of success throughout his career, or throughout the short stint he had. But it's also, I don't know, I kind of feel bad for him in some respects, just because that roster never got better to me during his tenure. So I don't know. It's just it's just another situation where a coach comes into a bad situation and can't flip it on its head and he gets fired for it. So I don't know.
Hey Mason, what do you think of this?
No, I couldn't agree more than what JT was touching on. He kind of came in a bad spot. Never really got a chance, but I get the fire there. I didn't even know about it until you told me about it, TJ. But I was not surprised. Things just did not work out, but
Yeah,
like 11
up the energy,
Yeah,
I'll play to changing it.
Yeah, and it's kind of a tough spot because one, where Ben McAbum is just a terrible OC, so I'm glad to see him go. But Phil Snow was actually a DC that I thought was doing a really good job, and they have a lot of young pieces on that side that I'm intrigued by. So kind of unfortunate from that perspective. And I could see where people will give Rule the back out of he never had a good quarterback, but he was the guy who signed Teddy Bridgewater. He was the guy who wanted to make the trade for Darnold. Had to settle for Baker Mayfield. So he kind of created the bed he slept in. So first domino falls. It'll be interesting to see who they're in on. We talked about the Lions getting blanked last week, but prior to that, Ben Johnson would have been a hot name, and I could see this team going high in the draft with a quarterback selection. Getting an OC kind of feels like it makes sense. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now for this team. But one of the other things I want to talk about off top, that Chargers fourth down decision. So this has been kind of the talk of the town. Anytime people talk about the Chargers, it's about fourth downs. It feels like no matter how this team can never seem to meet expectations. But so going forward on your own side of the 50, in a position where you've given up a ton of big runs all game against the Cleveland offense that's moving it well on the ground. And it did give Cleveland the chance to win the game with a field goal attempt. Ultimately, Cleveland misses. But I want to know, Mason, I'll kind of start with you. I know you're kind of fed up with this LA go for it on fourth, 2-point conversion. You're kind of fed up with all these talking points. But kind of where do you stand on how aggressive the Chargers and Brandon Staley are playing?
Right, man. This coach, man, he's super aggressive, and sometimes I like it, but when I'm betting on the Chargers and they go for this kind of stuff, I'm just dude,
sure.
Come on. You're on the 45 or the 50 or whatever they were on. You're up to, was it a minute left?
Yeah.
Something like that. Dude, just punt it away, man. I would gladly have Jacoby Brissett try and go down that field. Yeah, just it makes no sense for me. But it worked out. The Browns missed the field goal. They actually got a pretty good kicker. Their kicker is not that bad.
Yeah.
I full on thought he was going to make that kick. But
Cade York had the game winner week 1 in Carolina. He's kind of come through in those spots. So JT, I'll kind of pose the same situation. Let me just put you in Brandon Staley's spot. First down, you end the game. You control your own destiny. Or you try to punt it away and force Jacoby Brissett to travel the length of the field in a minute. Which route are you taking?
Yeah, well, the issue is like you still control your own destiny when you roll your defense out there. Like,
Fair.
especially with that big of a field, I'm definitely punting there. In that situation, I think it becomes like it's an ego issue with coaches kind of trending this way, in my opinion. So like with the media access is better than it's ever been. Coaches are getting kind of put in the limelight more than they ever have, whether it be like Sean McVay getting gassed up for this or gassed up for that, whether it be decision making, X and O's, whatever. Coaches are getting more hype than ever. And I think every coach right now, an easy way to like make a statement is if you kind of like guess wildly and it ends up working for you.
Or go against the grain.
Like going against the grain to make your name of something. Like, I don't know. I think that's part of where these fourth down conversion or attempts are coming from. It's kind of like an ego boost. I don't know.
Yeah,
That one just doesn't make a lot of sense. And like that's why it's causing so much controversy. It's like, dude, the Browns to drive that long, like you're betting against your defense that badly. Like, I don't know.
And I totally get where you guys are coming from. So I'm probably the one who's most analytically driven here and would be most compelled to want to go for it. But that being said, understanding like personnel is obviously something you have to take into account. And no Keenan Allen on a 4th and short play where you're trying to get somebody open quick. That's where I feel like the folly of this decision making really comes to a rise. Mike Williams is not a guy who gets open on quick routes. He needs long-term plays. So that's kind of where I think in that situation, yeah, no Keenan Allen, let me punt it. Let me see what the Browns can do with a minute in the entire field in front of them. But that being said, the decision did kind of work out. So it's interesting, but also I think part of the fourth down and the analytical decisions, 2-point conversions, all that we talk about with the Chargers is execution. I say this all the time. So many times they've gone for it, it wouldn't even be something we talk about the next day if they just got it. And I remember last year there were a ton of drops late in the season that kind of plagued this team and just bad play calls. I've never been a big fan of Joe Lombardi. So part of it's twofold. If you're going to go for it on 4th down, you got to have a good play in your pocket, right? It's kind of like Madden, like the NFL and Madden are not always that same, but if you're going to go for it, you need that money play. You need that play in your back pocket. So that's kind of where I stay on the issue. I think with no Keenan Allen, I probably would have punted it away, but I am also the person who, think about the Colts last year. Win in Jacksonville and you're in. That's simple. Like if you can control your own destiny, I think that's a powerful tool to have in your hand. But I'll kind of leave it there. Let me hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. I'd love to know where people stand on this, 4th down, attempt from Brandon Staley. And the last piece I want to talk about, rhythm throws. Deion Jones today traded from the Falcons, a team that's continuing to try to create some future cap space. He ends up in Cleveland, a team that's been kind of looking for a long-term linebacker. I think Kenny Walker was okay last year, not so great this year. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a playmaker, but you kind of play him in that Sam or that Will spot. I think Deion Jones is a nice ad, but we'll have to kind of wait and see how that ultimately plays out. But, man, are you ready to jump into game number 1?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. And if we're going to talk about 5 games today, Thursday night football, 1 o'clock, 1 4 o'clock, Sunday night football, Monday night football. But if you want to know our thoughts for the entire NFL slate, check out the link down below in the comment section. You can also see how we fared in week 5. Outside of JT, I don't think it was very pretty for Mason or I. So hopefully the bounce back week here in week 6. But let's go ahead and kick things off. Washington Commanders favored by a point, heading to Chicago, over under set at 38. And again, if any of these lines or drastically different on the screen, trust the graphic. But I kind of tee this off to y'all. I can't bet on bad teams. So I'm looking for any and all insight on where there might be potential angles here. JT, open it up. Who do you like in this one? And are you touching the total either?
Yeah, I've seen a good bit of the Commanders this season just due to local media coverage. I listen to sports radio. They happen to be the local team. Yep. For us, so I hear a lot of kind of their roster moves and kind of where they're at and all that. Also, just I have fantasy players on their team. I got Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson on a lot of things. So I've been watching a lot of them play, and I got to see the Bears firsthand play the Vikings this last week. I like the value you can get with the Commanders right now. I don't know. Anytime you can get a team playing the Bears and only -1, sure. I think you hop on it. Doesn't really matter what the team is. I think it's a good matchup in general. The Commanders have this year struggled against good defensive lines. They've struggled keeping Carson Wentz in the pocket and just keeping him upright. And the Vikings, who just beat the Bears last week, have had that same issue when we struggle. And I didn't notice the Bears pass rush at all on Sunday against the Vikings. I kind of see a similar thing where the Commanders can be, they'll handle that pass rush from the Bears. Carson Wentz will have a little bit of time. He loves to hold on to the ball, but I think he'll be able to this week. Also, good matchup in terms of the Washington's defense is terrible. They're not good, But as far as like when I think of like physical matchups, the Bears don't move the ball unless Justin Fields is running down the field. Essentially, like I don't know. That's the only way they move the ball is if he's making like freak athlete plays. And Washington is not great on defense, and their linebackers definitely aren't good, but they are fast. So you're looking at Cole Holcomb running a 4.47 or 4.48 in the draft, and then Jamin Davis, obviously a 4.47 guy. So you got two speedy linebackers, should be able to contain Justin Fields for the most part, or at least like limit his big play ability. While they're not great and they're not going to stop him within the 10, they could run him down and keep him from scoring a 60-yard rushing touchdown and keeping it to like a 20-yard gain, and then they end up punting in the game. They never end up scoring. So I don't know. I love the value you can get on the Commanders. I think it's a good play. So
yeah, I think that's an interesting angle. Just like if you get Pat Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or whoever at like a -1, -2 mark, it's like, okay, that's kind of tempting. I don't often get that with this quarterback. So kind of like that idea. And then even sticking with the Commanders defense, Montez Sweat looked really good against Tennessee. I think he could be a guy who has a takeover performance. We'll see about Chase Young. I don't think he plays in this game, but if he does, oh my God, that duo against that offensive line group for Chicago, that could be a potential problem for the Bears. And then I think what this comes down to is like whose offense has better playmakers, whose wide receivers could actually take. And I like Darnell Mooney. He had a great grab this past Sunday, but that's the one guy. That's really the one guy I think could win a game. And then I look at
Washington's deep. They're deep on offense.
Yeah, like Scary Terry, a stud. Like as big as Scary Terry McLaurin fan as there is right here. Curtis Samuel's fine. He can do a lot of different things. Jahan Dotson's had big games. And then how about Dyami Brown this past week? 2 catches, 100+ yards, 2 touchdowns on the first 2 grabs. He looked awesome. That was finally like we saw Dyami Brown do what he did at UNC, be that vertical stretch the field type. And it was great to see. But, it's obviously tough to bet on Carson Wentz. So as much as I feel like the Commanders should win this game, something's going to go wrong. Wentz is going to make a bad decision, or he's going to play absolutely lights out. More often than not, we see him make a couple bad decisions, including one, where he throws a pick, staring down an unopened running back at the goal line, and it costs him a chance to beat the Titans. So, that's kind of where I stay on this game. I'll take the Commanders in the picks league, but I don't know if I'm putting any cheddar on this. But Mason, at long last, let me hear what you're thinking about this one.
Yeah, I won't be too much on this. And I think you guys kind of steered me away from what I was going to say. Because at first I was leaning Bears, but I don't think I am anymore. You guys kind of drew me away from that pick. Don't know too much on either team, but like the Bears have not gone away really from like any game this year. They've always been pretty close with who they're playing against. But with the Commanders being a 1-point favorite, you got to think they're going to win by more than 2. Just with the playmaking, the deeper offense, the players on the roster, just makes sense. But again, I don't have too much.
I was just saying I would keep an eye on Dotson, see if he's healthy. I definitely am leaning Commanders, but keep an eye on him. He had a hamstring injury, kept him out last week. Definitely something to monitor there.
No doubt. And one last point here. I don't know if Robert Quinn's kind of phoned it in because he doesn't want to be on a bad team anymore, or if he's just lost it. But he's been pretty quiet this season. So I kind of go back to your point, JT, where that Bears defense does not offer a whole lot. So, and if they're not able to, get any pressure on Carson Wentz, he's going to hold it. He'll sit in the pocket, and eventually one of these receivers will get open. So another point there. And the last thing I want to ask you is, JT, you mentioned listening, local sports talk, obviously DC, we're all living here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. How about James Madison, the number 25 team in the country? Go Dukes, right?
It's kind of nuts, to be honest. Yeah, as a UNC fan, we're not ranked yet. I mean, come on now.
Mason, have you seen this? Have you checked the top 25 today?
Dude, yeah. Actually, so when I checked it the other day, it showed UNC at 25 and not JMU. But I'm looking now, and yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's insane to me. I don't know. I mean, shout out JMU, but if we saw the field with UNC, it would be rough.
Yeah, they're undefeated, bro.
We tend to agree.
We've lost. They haven't, so.
I guess so.
They did beat App State in a little bit more of a convincing manner, but we'll get at that. But that is a fun story there. Nonetheless, let's move on to game 2. JT's Minnesota Vikings favored against the Miami Dolphins. Now, obviously, when people are seeing this, they'll have a lot more clarity on this Dolphins QB situation than we have right now at the time of recording. So bear with us. This is kind of vague in a lot of ways, but Mason, I think we end up seeing Tua or Teddy, one of the two this week. We'll find out. But what do you think about Dolphins getting 3 points if it's one of those two? And then what do you think about this line and how much it might change? Or do you think it stays at -3 if it's Skylar Thompson starting for Miami instead?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on. And to me, with the Vikings having some trouble closing out games as of late, my betting lean for a betting perspective would be like first half Vikings money line maybe.
Sure.
But yeah, I think if Tua can't go, you'll definitely see Bridgewater or vice versa. I think there's a good chance we see Tua back this week. If Tua is good to go, I may have to dig a little bit deeper. But at the moment, I think I'm leaning Vikings. I don't know, JT, you take it away. Go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, dude, I was surprised to see the Vikings favored here. I think it's a scenario where we're favored simply because we're 4-1, and you could run into a backup quarterback problem. I think Tua's probably going to be good to go. I mean, that's not necessarily based off a whole lot. It's hard to tell with concussions. They can last, people can be out a month, people can be out 3-4 days. Obviously the optics aren't great around his situation, so they could keep him out just for optics. But I think this is a game where the Dolphins kind of need to win. And I also, it just surprised me that the Vikings were favored. The Vikings have beaten the Packers without Allen Lazard in week 1 when your only 2 real threats at the wide receiver position are rookies in their first game in the NFL. We beat the Lions, who just got torched by the Patriots. We beat the Saints with their backup quarterback, and we beat the Bears.
Barely.
This is the most shallow 4-1 record that you can probably find in the NFL, maybe aside from the Giants. But theirs is probably a better 4-1 than ours, to be honest. So I think the value, as obviously I'm a Vikings fan, kind of lean that way. But the value is all over the Dolphins right now. So I think you get good value at +3. I see this game as more of a pick 'em. So if you can get points with Miami, I say you take it. You could even ladder it too. I could see us losing by a field goal, losing by even a touchdown if you wanted to ladder it, get some, kind of higher value. Dolphins -6.5 if you can push it to that. I could definitely see a scenario where that happens.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we're talking about this early in the week. This is kind of the advantage if you're like a new or a modest bettor. I would encourage you to check out lines on a Monday and Tuesday and see what closing line value you think there will be. This could definitely be one. The second, if Tua does play in this game, the second he is, this is probably a pick. I think this is a pick 'em. Maybe it's a point, but this is because there's QB uncertainty surrounding Miami. Now, granted, Skylar Thompson, it probably moves to 4.5, 5, or more for Minnesota. So we're kind of in the middle ground here. So, I kind of want to note on this. We talked about the Tua situation last week, and you guys have a medical background much more than I do, but the concussion protocol is very subjective, is kind of what we talked about. And then this week, you automatically see a change in the concussion protocol. Teddy, as second he gets that test, there's someone who says, and they've apparently added this already to the protocol, already making this change to where they were saying Teddy will not go back in. And that's why we had the out ruling so early. So I find that interesting. There's already kind of that built-in extra layer of protection for player safety. But that being said, he also had some other injury that was nagging him. It was like an elbow or shoulder or something else. There was another part. I think we are more likely to see Tua versus Teddy. But if the Vikings can only beat the Bears and come from behind fashion, then I think there's a high reason.
To be fair, no. We controlled 90% of that game.
But where did it end? We're talking about.
No, but this goes to Mason's point about not being able to close it out.
So I think Miami +3 is, no matter who the quarterback is, I could see this game ending in 3, just for the sole reason of Minnesota last year under Zimmer, even with the new regime now, they find ways to keep it close, good and bad. So super interesting there. But I think one of the best things and potential plays here. Now, granted, his props are going to be through the roof over the last 2 weeks, or given the last 2 weeks, but Justin Jefferson and Xavier Howard doesn't play. Mans is going to go crazy. So I think, again, I think that might be the best thing you could do about this until we find out about, is Tua, is Teddy, who's the quarterback right now for Miami. But again, monitor Xavier Howard as well. But Justin Jefferson, the way he's playing, even if Xavier Howard's out there, maybe you just hammer it home. Kirk and him seem to be.
Yeah, I think O'Connell's been a lot better the past couple weeks at getting him more looks, even with over-the-top help, and also just giving him more freedom on the underneath routes in general. They're not just using him as a clear out quite as much as they were when he had those kind of rough games.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And again, since we're talking about this so early on, be sure to check out the link in the description. Get our final thoughts. Check on Sunday. That will be our final predictions before that contest between the Vikings and Miami. Let's move on to game number 3 now. And I mean, probably the game of the week. And, has the talent to be the game of the year, despite we're only heading into week 6. But Bills Chiefs, I mean, did you see the playoff game last year? That's your reason to be excited for this one. So GT, I love what you put down in the notes here. This is simply why I think as of right now, I'm leaning Kansas City. At the time of this recording, they're getting 2.5, which still isn't crazy, but Kansas City getting points at home in a game where you think it could go in any direction, that's as good a place to kind of start, maybe finish your conversation. Kansas City getting points at home. I'm right there with you, but JT, let me hear kind of what you're thinking about this one and maybe some potential game scripts. Where do you think this game ends up going?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a great matchup. It's going to be the best game of the week. Most fun to watch. We're not really, giving you guys any information that you don't know already. If you watch any football, the Bills, the Chiefs. They're just insane. So yeah, to me, it's, take the points when you have two all-timers playing against each other. Especially the Chiefs getting points at home.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Definitely like that. So obviously the Bills have looked more dominant in certain games this year, but yeah, I like the Chiefs at home. I think Arrowhead's really you have a nice advantage there, and the Bills are due for a little bit of regression. They've had last week obviously kind of torched a little bit to the point where they didn't play much of the second half, which is kind of insane. But yeah, so I don't know, I'd just take the Chiefs, kind of sit back, relax, enjoy the game. You're probably gonna you're gonna see these teams late in the year. Yeah, that's all I got, really.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as I'm with you on Kansas City, this is kind of the mini Super Bowl for Buffalo. Like, they obviously have legitimate Super Bowl aspirations, but this is the game. They've been thinking about 13 seconds being away from advancing. That's been in their mind for a while. So this is kind of a mini Super Bowl. And like you said, really the Bills starters only played the first half. As we get a special appearance from Apollo, going crazy in the background, go crazy, go stupid, was good. Basically only playing one half last week. So they might be having that little bit of extra, freshness and value here. So Mason, let me hear what you're thinking about. What are some potential mismatches you think one side maybe takes advantage of, or what do you think the angle is? What is the difference? Who prevails? Who you got? Bills right now favored by 2.5.
Yeah, I don't know about mismatches and whatnot. I'm not too in depth about that, but I think I would have to lean Chiefs as well. You got to think the Bills come down to earth a little bit after last week's spanking. No offense, TJ. But yeah, in Arrowhead, give me the Chiefs getting 2.5 points. I just think the better quarterback. I don't know. That's just me. I would lean Chiefs. It's going to be a damn good game, but I can't wait to watch it. Betting perspective, I would lean Chiefs.
Yeah, and I mean, I say this all the time. If it's 50-50 in your mind, take the side getting points. You're just widening your range of outcomes at that point. So I think that is kind of the early thought here. But the one other thing I did want to make note of, Patrick Mahomes has been extra good against the zone this year, against zone defenses, that is. And this is a Buffalo team that probably not going to have Trey White. And that alone, without your star cornerback, you're probably already thinking there's more zone in the game plan. Christian Benford might not play. Jordan Poyer was out last week. So if you are a team that's playing more zone, you're now down Poyer and Hyde. That's a huge part of this Bills identity gone right there. So if this is a Buffalo team that's going to continue to play Sean McDermott, lots of 2-4-6 coverages against Kansas City, and Mahomes, who's been chefing it up against zone, that could be a potential problem. And again, I think that's one of the higher level thoughts that makes me think, okay, yeah, Kansas City, they can do this at home. But yeah, I think this one's going to be a fun one. What do you think about the over-under here? Total at 53.5.
Over.
I don't know. I don't really touch over-unders once they get in the 50s. I kind of leave them alone. I don't play a lot of totals anyway, over or under. I don't know. I just don't like betting on them. I could see it going either way, though. I could definitely see over. I think it's a good line, 53.5. That sounds about right. The more we talk about this game, though, it feels really weird that the Bills are favored.
That's what I'm saying.
It's strange. It makes me think like betting the Chiefs might be a square bet somehow. Like kind of a setup. I don't know. Like, that's so strange that they're favored at the Chiefs. That's very strange to me.
Well, this is where I have to give the viewers and the listeners a little insider baseball here. Unfortunately, we've only seen one half of these two teams play this week. So we're recording that early in the week. So if Kansas City wins by 15 tonight, this is probably close to a pick 'em. So we are unfortunately doing this very early, but like you said earlier, JT, there's nothing that we don't already know about these two teams. If we were talking about this game before week 1, we would have had a good idea of what we were talking about, what we would be saying. It'd probably sound a lot similar to what we're talking about right here, right now. So obviously going to be a fun one, but man, potential ownership of the number 1 seed on the line too. So that's going to be an exciting game, no doubt about it. Let's go ahead and move on to game number 4 now. Battle between the two top teams in the NFC East. Sorry, Giants fans, I don't really consider you in this race, but Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, Philly favored by 5, the over-under set to 42. But all right, JT, I kind of want to start with you here. This was an interesting game. And, hey, let me start by apologizing. Cooper Rush, again, not that bad. And y'all were the first 2 to be hot on this trend. Y'all were saying it before Shady McCoy, and that's how you know you're some real ones. So I want to open it to y'all, and I want to open it to you, JT. Who you got in this one? I mean, 5 points kind of feels like rich for me for Philadelphia right now, but what do you think of this one?
5 points. I think that's a really good line. I think it's a sharp line.
Okay.
I think we see Rush instead of Dak. I think Dak's, kind of close to coming back, but with issues gripping the ball.
Yeah, hold on, if I can cut you off. The reason I'm not entirely sure we see Dak is now they're saying he needs a full week of practice. He needs to be 100%. Like, now it feels like they're being really cautious with him.
Well, yeah, I mean, a hand injury,
Rush.
dude. I mean, if you're having issues gripping the ball like last week and kind of coming up to last week's game, that tells me you're not really close to playing or starting in the NFL, in my opinion. So I think we at least don't. Yeah, we see Rush again. Like I said, 5's a good line. I'm still waiting for Hurts to kind of have like a mistake-ridden game. I think he's due for it. Again, he's become and I said this last week, and it didn't really end up happening a whole lot. Granted, the Cardinals did cover. We kind of pointed that out, that we would kind of lean that way. Kind of on the same line of thinking this week. I think the Cowboys defense can get to Hurts a little bit. Also, the Cowboys are kind of a defense that takes a lot of chances. You can see a couple turnovers, kind of steal some possessions. I don't know. I think it's going to be kind of just a close game. And yeah, I don't know. It's a place that I probably wouldn't bet either side of it. But like I said, I'm just kind of waiting on that come to earth game. And we've seen a little chinks in the armor a little bit with the Eagles as far as, not being able to put teams away and things like that. Might be one of those scenarios, or the Cowboys could, win outright. I don't know. Cooper Rush is a dog, so.
And Mason, vice president of the Cooper Rush Stan Club. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, so I'm definitely leaning Dallas, and I didn't even know about the second injury you guys were just talking about with Dak, with the hand issues. Is that what you guys were talking about? What was the other one? You said he's got a second injury.
So it's not really a second injury. It's just they're saying that he's going to need like longer as far as like prove it in practice kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. So that's where I'm going to talk about. So now I just think the Dallas coaching staff is just going to milk this as much as they can because, dude, they're 4-0 with Cooper Rush. If it's not broke, why fix it? You know what I'm saying? Dude, week 1, Cowboys scored 3 points with Dak Prescott.
Do you see a quarterback controversy coming?
Sounds like it.
Mason, you're leading that way.
I'm just saying, dude, they're going to milk this injury for as long as they can. Dude, Dallas looks cracked right now. Like, their defense is insane. That offense is not great, but it's not terrible. He doesn't make mistakes like you guys touched on.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree. That defense is...
It's looking like a Alex Smith 49ers to me. Like, it's giving me kind of vibes of like, don't make any mistakes, let the defense control the game, make enough plays to get the win.
Sure, I can see that. I don't know if Kellen Moore's scheme is quite to the like what the 49ers were doing at that time, but yeah, nonetheless, I can see that. But yeah, kind of what I wanted to talk about here was offensive line, defensive line matchups here. Like, I think part of the reason this Dallas defense has been, I mean, not even part of the reason. Michael Parsons is just an animal. Like, let's just confront it for the fact that it is. And that has elevated that defense to another level. But also, Trevon Diggs has been really good. Those safeties, Donovan Wilson was fantastic last week. That defense is legitimately just good. And the pass rush is what really, like, I was big on the Cowboys money line last week. Very excited about, those cash outs, those earnings. But Michael Parsons was such a bad matchup for anybody on that Rams offensive line. Like, it was just going to be a bad look, no one way or other. But Philadelphia's offensive line is nice. And if Jordan Mailata plays, I feel a whole lot better about saying this, but Mailata, ideally on one side, he was close to playing last week, and then Lane Johnson on the right. Like, I don't know if this is a game where Parsons is good, he's going to make plays, but I don't know if he destroys it quite like he did against the Rams, even though he had a groin injury. And it was kind of the entire Dallas front against the Rams. So I give the unit credit there, but I don't know if Dallas can do that in this one. And, I look at two dynamic playmakers with Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, also Dallas Goedert. Goddard's been one of the best tight ends in the league this year. And for Dallas, I kind of just see CeeDee Lamb. And so part of that, again, kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the Commanders and the Bears. Which side has more guys who can make big plays? And so I'm leaning Philadelphia, but that being said, that's really just for them to win. I think Dallas covers this just for the sake of a division game. Like, when you get into division play, it's just weird. A la the Bears Vikings that we just saw this last week. There was no reason that game should have stayed close. So I'm taking Dallas with the points, but if we're talking who's going to win this game, who's controlling the NFC East moving forward, to me, that's got to be Philadelphia. I just think they match up really well for the strengths that Dallas presents. But let me throw it back to y'all. So I think Dallas against the spread, but Philadelphia winning. Let me ask y'all again, where you stand on this one from both perspectives.
Yeah. I think you're in line and on point, logically looking at it. It's just, it's one of those games, just like every other game, that could go anyway. I don't see any scenario where the Cowboys run away with it or anything like that. The Eagles are just too good. So I wouldn't push the line back in the Cowboys' favor. You could sprinkle money line if you're feeling real good about it. But let's, like you said, the Eagles are just a better team, in my opinion. But I could see a cover for sure.
Mason, what do you think?
Yeah, I think if Cooper Rush is QB1, I'm definitely hammering the Cowboys. If we see Dak under center, not touching it, Eagles by 20, not 20, Eagles by at least 10. But that's just me.
But you know what? Let me give you some points here too. Even if Dak to me, without a doubt, better than Cooper Rush. But first week back after being hurt, that or Cooper Rush, that's a different story there. So I could also see where it's Dak's just coming back. Let's just stick with Cooper Rush, and that's further incentive. And then maybe you're right, Mason. It's that's the point. That's what the narrative is. Oh, Dak's not ready yet. Dak's still not there.
Yep.
Dak's not.
They're gonna milk, dude. Now, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Prime time in Philly, it's got to be a close game, right?
Yep, exactly. When was the last Sunday night football game? I'm having a hard time thinking of a early season Sunday night football game that wasn't close.
Last night, wasn't close. Sorry.
Wasn't, yeah. I mean, I know we had some stinkers week 18 last year where Philly didn't play their starters, but Sunday night football seems to find a way to get some really good games. But anyways, that's it for Sunday night football. Now let's move on to Monday night football. Broncos Chargers. And Mason, I'll start with you. You were pointing here in our notes. Chargers. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a lot for me. Tell me why you like the Chargers despite that many points they have to lay.
Dude, it's not even that I like the Chargers as much. It's just I don't like the Broncos.
That's fair.
That's all. I can't trust them, dude. So frustrating. And I just think the Chargers win by a touchdown at home. That's just me. That's all I'm going to talk about. I'm not even going to go into detail about it. But I'll let you two go more in detail for the audience.
Well, first, let me ask you both. Was that the worst primetime game you've ever watched?
Yeah.
I was so frustrated, dude.
It was one of the worst games I've ever seen. From professional athletes. I was like, what are we watching right now?
I remember there was a Monday night football game between the Steelers and the Dolphins when I was really, really young. It ended 3-0, but it was because it was an absolute mud bowl. So that was fun. This was in a dome. There was no reason for offenses to look that bad. Anyways, I've had enough. JT, tell me what you think about this one. Can you put any faith in the Broncos to cover this? I don't know.
Yeah, it's not even like Mason, you said I can't trust the Broncos. It's not even a trust point. It's I think they're awful. I think they're terrible. They're just bad. I think Russell Wilson, he's been horrendous. He can't hit the broadside of a barn right now. He's none of his reads are crisp. None of the ball's not coming out when it needs to be, and when it does, it's not on target. It's just and it makes you, and seriously, and I put in my notes it makes me question if Russell Wilson was ever that guy, or if he was just inflated by what's around him. He's inflated by a defense. Then he was inflated, by a good run game. He was inflated by DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on the other side. And then now we see the real Russell Wilson, and he's not that good. There's a reason he was drafted where he was drafted. Not a lot of short quarterbacks with I don't know. It's just it makes you question. I feel bad for Russ because now we're seeing him kind of just be it feels like he's getting exposed for what he's always been, kind of thing. And and I heard, who said it? I think it was a clip from Ryan Clark, basically saying that Russell Wilson's not an all-timer. And
this just kind of
this is
bringing
kind
that
of
light.
Yeah, it's rough, man. So yeah, all right. All in all, Chargers -6 because the Broncos are god awful.
Man, see, a touchdown is so much delay here. I think what gives me pause is, again, if Keenan Allen's not in this game, Patrick Tan has been money. We talked about it. We gave him raving reviews last week, again, in the footage that went to the ether. But, dude, Patrick Tan's been him. I mean, he has been one of the best in the league at that position. Not just best up and coming, not best young. Dude's a stud. If he takes away Mike Williams,
I just think if the Chargers score 21, they cover.
That's fair. And
that's how bad
Austin
I think the Broncos really are.
Gerald Everett, they have some pieces there. Specifically, Justin Herbert's never had a whole lot of success against the Broncos defense. That was Vic Fangio, and it's not Fangio anymore, but that defense is the same build. So I'm interested to see how he handles, this, a lot of too high, a lot of cover 2-4-6, yada, yada, yada. But also, if they're going to force him to play over the middle, and there's no Keenan Allen, that means Austin Eckler, DFS play for sure. Gerald Everett could be a nice budget play there, or if you're looking at his props, he could be a solid play. Those guys are gonna have to step up to me because, again, if there's no Keenan Allen, Pat Surtain's taking him away. And even if Keenan Allen plays, Pat Surtain against Keenan Allen, I don't know about that. And then it's Mike Williams, who's a vertical, get down the field, win down the field guy against a defense that's designed to not let you have big plays. So much of what I like about this Chargers team should be there in theory, and I don't know, this Broncos defense just prevents the right, obstacle, the right challenge in front of them. So I don't know. It's just kind of a bad matchup.
Do you like the under? Do you like the under then?
Absolutely. That's basically kind of what I'm leaning into. I think I'd still take the Chargers -6, and I'll probably take that in the picks league. But I think the under is probably the better play because I could see this being 21-10. And 45.5. It's not egregious, but
that's not a super low number. That's not bad.
And again, we're talking about this on Monday. This might go down to 42.5 by the time people are seeing this. So again, bet early because I think I'm about to go bet. Now I'm gonna go bet the under. I don't know. I just think the Chargers offense doesn't really have that much of an advantage against what Denver wants to do defensively. So yeah, maybe 21-10, something like that. I think the under is probably the live play there. But nonetheless, that is going to do it for game number 5. That's going to do it for our game previews, and that leads us into the 2-minute drill. I think we're loose, ready to go. I'll reset the stopwatch now. Guys, I will go ahead and kick us off here. I really like this teaser play. Teasers have burned me so far this year, but teasing the Jags out to +8. I don't know how the Colts are favored, if I'm being honest. People were too quick to crown the Jags. People were telling me they're a top 10 team. No shot. They're still in a rebuild. But there's nobody in the AFC South winning games by more than a touchdown this year. So move the Jags out to +8. And then I teased down the Vikings Dolphins total to 39. I'm going to bet the over there. Bad cornerback play, especially if Xavier Howard's not playing, then bad CD play is going to lead to a lot of points. Also thought about San Francisco, which became -1, or it could become plus points, or Tampa Bay down to 2.5, but I'm still iffy there. But Jags +8, total of 39 for the Vikings, and Dolphins, I'm hitting the over there. And now, JT, I throw it to you.
Yeah, so my lock was going to be Commanders money line, but I'm actually going to kind of pivot a little bit, do a little tease as well. I really like the over in the Vikings Miami, so I'm going to do the same thing. Vikings Dolphins over 39 or 39.5, whatever you can get it at.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to tease that with the Chargers, and the Broncos under 51.5. And you should be able to get that at light plus money. So that's going to be my my lock there.
I like that play. I'm probably tailing that. All right, Mason, you got 30 seconds. Bring us home.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna tail JT's as well. 30 seconds. I'll be quick. I'm going 2-team teaser as well. Cowboys +7.5 and Bengals money line. Cowboys are playing the Eagles. Bengals are playing the Saints. I just don't think the Bengals lose 2 in a row. I really think they should have won last night, and I just don't see them as being a 2-4 team after next Sunday. So Cowboys +7.5, Bengals money line.
I like that play. I think that's a nice 2-team play. And guys, we made it just in under 2 minutes. Now I'm gonna give out some honorable mention plays here because I had some other ones I wanted to throw out for the viewers. I like that Bengals call out -1. I know they're still not great, and Joe Burrow's been really bad against too high coverages. Again, those cover 2-4-6 looks. But that being said, it's either Jameis Winston returning from an injury or it's Andy Dalton. And and Michael Thomas hasn't played the last 2 weeks. Is Chris Olave playing? Where's Jarvis Landry? that offensive firepower is completely diminished right now in New Orleans. So I really like the Bengals there. And that's another game where maybe it's a teaser leg or maybe it's straight up. I like the under there too. So I'm being such a Grinch, taking away points in the NFL, but unders have been hitting like crazy. You gotta hop on the wave while it's here. So any other honorable mentions y'all want to call out?
Yeah, Commanders money line. I like that. I'd press it out a little bit. I think that they could run away with it. Maybe do a little ladder action on there. Push it up a little bit. Aside from that, I think most of the lines are pretty sharp. Teasing with the Jags plus is always, plus the points is always nice. Betting against Matt Ryan. It's the theme of the show. So
that might become the new show title, betting against Matt Ryan. We might have to do a full segment on that. Mason, any other call outs we wanted to shout out?
Yeah, real quick, I'm looking at them now. Bucks versus Steelers. I mean, come on.
Did you see
Bucks
on Sunday?
Yeah. Bucks minus 8.5. Yes, please.
Yeah. There might be a Steelers fan here on tilt.
Well, just we saw the Bills defense. The Bucks defense isn't far off, if not a little healthier right now. I don't know.
Yeah, the only reason I took it out of my teaser leg at 2.5 because the Bucks are they're a field goal better than Pittsburgh. That feels like a layup, but it's first home start for Kenny Pickett. I don't know. It feels like something could go weird there. Pittsburgh back at home after a tough game.
The Tomlin factor.
Tomlin always factor. That's ultimately why I booted it out. But on paper, 8.5. That should if it was 14 to the Bills, it should be 10 right now, easy. So I'll take the 8.5 while I have it. So, but anyways, guys, thanks so much for joining me again this week. I wanted to say thank you and appreciate you giving me some time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep.
Absolutely. And we want to say thank you all for joining us as well. Give us some of your plays from this weekend, some games you're looking forward to watching, some matchups, some one-on-ones, whatever you want to talk about. We're happy to talk about it with you. So let me hear those thoughts down below in the comment section. If you enjoyed, hit that like button. If you're new around here, hit that big red subscribe button. That's going to do it for us. Until next week, and I promise we have a new episode out next week, we are signing off.